Now, the highest level of skill that can be displayed in Total War is what I would call a legendary player. There are very many of these players around, obviously. Legendary is exactly what the name implies. These are guys who are, like, their skill and prowess in the game is legendary. It's got a legendary reputation to it if people know about it. You know, they play at a level higher than even a master level does, so there's a little bit more going on with them. A legendary player, like their skill level is almost supernatural, basically. Like, this is the impression you get if you face a legendary player. You will know. Okay, I don't really have to describe to you what a legendary player is, because you will know when you see it. They're that good. You will fucking know when you see it. Okay, excuse my language, but I mean, these are players that you can't even really say how the hell they're doing what they're doing and how the hell they're this good. You know, and like there's various criteria I can use to just find someone for being legendary. I can tell you right now, there aren't very many of these players. There are very few of these players actually. And each and every legendary player I've identified, I've been able to identify them for entirely different reasons from each other. There's a very wide range of criteria that makes them just better than a master level. And like, I've even got an example to show you later on of just what defines a legendary player and what makes them different from a master level player. But the description of a legendary player I have here is that it is a player who is transcended nearly knowing the game extremely well and has honed his control over the game to a near unprecedented scale. Legendary player is skilled in such a way that his coordination, microspeed, and reflexes seem supernatural. And these players are truly a force to be reckoned with that will decide games. Not they can decide games, they will decide games. Okay, this is the highest level of player you're dealing with here. They will decide games, even amongst the best of players. They will be the deciding factor 9 times out of 10. If you got a team of 3 master level players, 2 master level players, and 1 legendary on the other team, well, the latter team's going to win 9 times out of 10. That's how good a legendary player is. Okay? That's just how good they are. And they're able to consistently win under seemingly like fucking impossible odds. You know, it don't even matter. Like, usually when you got legendary players playing with like randoms on their team and stuff, this is where you see the screenshots, the crazy screenshots when you got one guy with like 3,000 kills and like the other guys like 500 kills each. And the team with the legendary guy won. The guy with the 3,000 kills won on his own, fighting 1v3 and shit. Like, it's insane. You know, these guys are able to do like things that don't make any sense consistently too. It ain't just one-off scenarios. This is something they do consistently because they're operating at a level above just simply being very like experienced with the game. Is what that is. Now, like I said, there aren't very many people who I would describe as this level, but there are definitely some. And those players that I have identified over the course of my entire Total War career, this kind of come from various like Total War games. So the first player I would describe as this is Matt Baker. And I'm going to list off their names because they deserve it. They truly deserve it for how good they are. So Matt Baker he's not an NTW player. I know I mainly talk about Napoleon Total War, but Matt Baker is actually an Empire Total War player. And he has played Napoleon Total War occasionally. And every time he has played it, okay, he's managed to beat like people who play this game every fucking day. Matt Baker, a guy who doesn't play Napoleon, beating people who play it every fucking day. You know, that just to give you his credentials on why I consider him a legendary player, where there it is right there. If you catch him on Empire Total War, pray to God, like you're not gonna stand a chance against Matt Baker. Really, nobody there over there can. You know, all the players who stayed over there playing that game, like none of them could really contend with Matt Baker really, and like they tried to smear his name with drama and shit like that. He just ignored them. You know, me and him are real good friends. He knows all about the stuff I've gone through because he relates to it. He went through it over there in Empire. Maybe not as extreme, but you know, Matt Baker, he's my guy. You know, and like, to give you a perfect example, okay, again, of the difference between a legendary player and a master level player and why I consider Matt Baker a legendary player, is you guys remember I mentioned TSR Rexio as being a master level player. Well, Matt Baker came over to Napoleon Total War one day just casually, and he defeated TSR Rexio like easily in a 1v1. Like, holy shit. And he did it in a very like unorthodox way too, because he used a army setup that was not optimal at all for Napoleon Total War. So like that's just again, this is what a legendary player looks like. Another legendary player I would consider would be TSR Commander. TSR Commander, much can be said about this guy. A lot of people probably disagree with me calling him this, but he is truly a legendary player based on everything I've seen from him. Because the guy, like, when he, first of all, okay, like, even throwing aside that he only plays grassy, which isn't true, by the way. He plays all maps, but even if you just, like, consider for a second that he beats these guys who are supposed to be good, at least high elite level players and up, he beats these guys with Netherlands. He beats these guys with Denmark. He beats these guys with all kinds of ridiculous factions. Spain may not be nearly that ridiculous. Spain does have a few advantages it can use on grassy, but still, it's fucking Spain, okay? And he not only beats people with it, but he completely trouts them. And like Netherlands, that's a nation that should be winning anything at all, anywhere. Netherlands is a completely trash nation in Napoleon Total War. But he consistently beats very good players with Netherlands on grassy. And again, putting the whole grassy argument aside, that's not easy to do. That is not easy to do. And he's got so many screenshots like this. And he does it consistently. You know, most people who go up against Commander thinking they're going to have their way, they're sorely mistaken. And they get reminded of that fact very quickly going up against him. It's hard to face him under any conditions, really. Another example of a legendary player, another TSR member, I would consider TSR Talcor to be a legendary player. TSR Talcor, he is very versatile. He's probably the most versatile player in the entire game that I've ever seen. He is able to change his playstyle. He's able to go from one playstyle of hyper-aggressive, lots of cav, lots of Russian, to a playstyle much more similar to Commander. So he's able to use any playstyle you can think of and do really, really well with it. And beat the majority of players. And like most of the time when Talcor loses, it's like, okay, he had 2 randoms on his team and like all kinds of crazy shit. You're like, come on. And he usually does like very, very, very good with, again, minor nations like Austria, like Netherlands, like, you know. Well, actually, Talcor's thing is actually more so Denmark than Netherlands. This is the thing, like legendary players are so good that they generally handicap themselves with weaker factions. In Commander's case is Netherlands, and Talcor's case is Denmark. Another legendary player would be Insect Linden. Insect Linden, formerly 4/9th Linden, you know, he was a player that I found in a minor clan a long time ago. I brought this guy up, I trained him, I taught him a few things, and he got really, really good, really, really fast, and soon enough, he became too much for me. He became too much for Crucible. He became too much for hell. He almost became too much for Commander, because they had it back and forth for a long time. But like he kind of capped out around facing Commander, which is why Commander has retained his legendary status, but also why Linden gained his, because Linden has been the only person who has really put up a very significant threat to Commander, like ever. And that's the thing. And Commander actually survived Linden's era. I don't think Linden plays anymore, but if for whatever reason he came back, I think he'd be more or less the same level, and that level would be a legendary player. Because he's someone who going up against you can't really understand how he does what he does, and he wins consistently, you know, in a very remarkable set of circumstances usually. So, I mean, yeah, these are players I would consider to be legendary players. There's also a guy who used to play Rome 2 and various other Total War games known as Angel of Death. I don't know as much about him, but I did play him one time and I saw him play a couple times, and yeah, what I saw definitely was reminiscent of what I call a legendary player. He also made good friends with Linden too. I'm guessing that was, you know, based on mutual respect for each other's skills. So, you know, again, another legendary player. You know, these are guys who are known far and wide for their skill and, you know, the these are guys that if you get them in front of you in a match, well, good luck, partner, because like God ain't gonna save you today once these players are in front of you. So yeah, this is the hierarchy of how I rank players in Total War. So, as I promised earlier, I'm going to show you an example of what it looks like when a legendary player goes up against a master level player. So, this map is Grassy Flatlands. Myself and Talcor, I'm France, Talcor is GB, and we are up against Dutch for 4-9 and Unity Crucible. Now, Grassy is the only map where you can objectively view someone's skill. It is the only map where true skill is displayed, and that is all you have on Grassy. It is the only map where it is purely just skill and nothing else. So this right here is going to be a great example of what happens when a legendary faces a master level player. So as you can see here, Talcor made an interesting little setup starting with his light infantry. He took the blows with his light infantry. He's going straight in with 8 British cavalry. Now let me point this out to you. British cavalry is extremely weak. Britain has some of the worst cavalry in the game, in fact. And the fact that he's able to go in here and do this, look at him. Look how long this cavalry is surviving. He's bouncing it off from unit to unit to unit. He's able to cause a lot of havoc with that British cav. They're not going down. He ran his general up there to give him a boost, keep him in the fight. He's still going. He's still going. I just now came in with my French cav to finally start giving him some support. But by now, he's already most of the way done with Crucible. He has done all of this completely on his own, unsupported. I think Dutch got there before I did to support Crucible. But despite that, Talcor was able to get in there very deeply with those GB calves. Some of the worst calves in the game. GB is not a nation that's built to do this. And this is what I spoke to earlier about Talcor. Talcor is able to make a variety of playstyles work with a variety of setups. And the fact that he was able to do this, on his own mostly. I just now came in with my units to help him finish Crucible off. Crucible is up against the red line. Most of his army's gone. He's basically out of the freaking game. Here I come with my small little contribution. I've got my French calves to come in there, keep some of the calf that Crucible has left or Dutch has off of Talcor's units. That gives Talcor the opportunity to come in and use those British lines to mow him down. Crucible's almost done. He's almost done. I'm going to come in here one more time with my calves. It's going to be bam, bam right there. He is most of the way through. I'm going to pull through with my calves. I'm going to take out that general to seal the deal. Bam. Crucible's general is gone. And there he is. Crucible is completely out of the match. Now it is 2v1 with myself against 4-9 Dutch, with Talcor still having a pretty sizable army left. That is what it looks like when a legendary player plays a master level player on the only map where skill alone is the deciding factor. And yeah, this is a perfect illustration here. I hope that really helped you get a sense of what we're talking about when we say a player's legendary skill. Okay, because GB, again, I can't stress enough how ridiculous that army is he brought with GB. That is a ridiculous build. That is not something that GB is good for, or that is very advisable for you to use GB for. Okay, that was very well executed and very unorthodox. And now Dutch is here all by himself. Crucible entirely out of the match. And we're gonna win this match here. Dutch, he's a good player. He did some things here to try and wrestle this match back from the jaws of defeat. He's not gonna be able to, because eventually I'm gonna overpower him and we're just gonna win the match. So yeah, that's a perfect example of what I mean here. So a good example of how my skill level works though. I consider myself a master level player. I also consider Dutch to be a master level player, relatively speaking. Dutch, however, he does a phenomenal job here on his own after Crucible's been defeated. And myself, how I generally work is that, okay, I typically like to chill and hang out in games. I usually just play games with my friends nowadays. I don't try to play that serious, but after witnessing what Talcor did to Crucible, okay, well that let me know right away, well Talcor did all that to beat Crucible, so now that means I'm going to have to do my part to finish off Dutch over here. Okay, but unbeknownst to me, Dutch is actually going to do a phenomenal job over here. So much in fact that later on you're going to see him actually finish off the last of Talcor, because Talcor had to use a lot of units. That wasn't easy to beat Crucible the way he did. And as a result, he did lose quite a bit of his army to pull it off. But what's that allow is that's put us in the advantageous situation, basically to where we're more than likely going to win. However, it's not fully over, and you see Dotch is moving over there against Talcor. So I'm still in a mindset that we've got this in the bag right now, and I'm not playing to my fullest ability as of right now. You see, I'm letting Dotch, for the most part, just get away. Dotch is pulling back with his army further and further back to the corner. I'm just kind of letting him get away. I'm not chasing him as hard as I should. I'm also not supporting Talcor. You see, Talcor over there has lost all of his remaining army, and I just now realized that. I'm just now moving to respond to it. So, as you see, now Dotch has actually pulled this together to where he has made this back into a 1v1 for the most part. Talcor only has 1 unit left. This is now effectively a 1v1. And if I don't get my shit together real soon, okay, Dotch is actually going to be able to pull this out as a victory. Which means that now, it is no longer in my capability to just rely on Talcor. It is now my responsibility to bring home the win here. Either I'm going to be skilled enough to beat this master level player in front of me, or I'm not going to be, and I'm going to prove to actually be a high elite level player, which means I'm not a master level player myself. As you will see here though, this begins to dawn on me right about here. This dawns on me right here once I see Talcor's gone. So now I'm like, oh shit, I gotta actually, play serious now, which is what I'm doing. So you see, I'm starting to close back the pocket that Dotch created here on the side, closing that back up. I'm starting to be a lot more proactive with my units here. I'm starting to think about my placement of my units a lot more. So I'm reorganizing my army. I'm putting units here, there. I'm making sure my cav is going in the place that can threaten Dotch in the most crucial locations. And I've also formulated a strategy here now. My strategy is to continue pushing Dotch back into the corner that he's put himself in. I'm going to keep pushing it back into the corner gradually, slowly over time. Once he gets into that corner, he's going to be in a position where he can't effectively mobilize against me. And once he's in that position, I'm going to have the advantage. And then I can finish him off properly. But as you can see, Dotch is making a lot of damaging moves with those Prussian lights. Right there in the center. My center is under threat of being collapsed from those Prussian lights. So I've got to really manage my flanks here really well to keep closing him and forcing him back. I made a move against one of his lights. I made one of his lights route. That's very, very good. Going to take pressure off me in the center, but then he moved up a line to further threaten the center to keep that pressure on me. So now I'm going to move up here on the flank. You see I took out another one of his lights right there, but he also managed to take out one of my lines. Not a problem. I've got plenty of lines right there on the flank. I'm continuing to mount the pressure on him. He managed to get a shot off there with his line against my old guard and retreat without taking any damage. That was a very good move for him. Not so good for me. But I did manage to threaten his lights right there with my calf without taking too much damage. Pushing the flank again. I actually got a volley off with the old guard there. That was very good for me. All I got to do is keep trading with him and keep pushing him back, and I will inevitably win this. As you can see, I'm taking him serious now. I'm starting to take him serious now, so this is why I'm able to do what I'm doing here. I'm coordinating a strategy. I've got a set goal. I made my move right there in the center to make a move for his general. Unfortunately, though, my cavalry routed because I no longer have my general. Not a problem. I kind of expected that to happen. So at the same time that I pushed that attack, I pushed there on my flank an attack that he wasn't able to fight back against, and so I won that engagement. I've made further progress pushing him back on that side. Now I'm going to also close up the gap on this side. On the other side there, he's pushing with his foot guard. I've got him up against the red line successfully now. Now he's in a position where he has to stand and fight. He's going to try and charge with his general. I shot his general right in the face with my line. He lost his general. That's basically GG right there. He's up against the red line. He's lost his general. And I've got more units than him at this point too. So, yes, I've managed to wrestle this victory out of this 1v1 situation that Dash was able to create by finishing off Talcor, it came down to a 1v1, and I was able to win the 1v1. So this is GG. Just finishing off here. And yeah, so that is a perfect rundown of how skill levels end up playing out in an actual battle. We had a legendary player and a master level player versus two master level players. You can see the results here. And yeah, that was a good game.